entrepreneurs in what they do to bring inputs, for example, for farmers, but also do policy and advocacy and build capacity of farmers to understand how to grow food sustainably using organic methods and agroecological practices. Thank you, Amon, and I think we have a very good discussion today, and our listeners tune in and we have a good conversation.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Francis, and I'm glad that you represent about a number of countries that include Uganda, especially in East Africa here. I've come to know that Madagascar is part of this great initiative. I'm glad that you're representing all the countries in this forum of UBC Ground Zero. As we are going to be exploring this theme and our topic today, we will reflect on some of the pressing questions. How do we ensure the science informs policy rather than being aligned by the competing interests? We're going to look at how we build public trust in systems designed to protect the health, and how do we move from knowledge to implementation in a way that benefits every citizen, every Ugandan, every East African, every African, but also we look at the global citizens, because I understand when it comes to food safety, we are not talking about just Uganda, because you'd find that foods that are grown deep in Kasese, where my brother comes from, I want to believe, or foods that are grown in Kabale at the extreme end of this country, they end up in the European markets, they end up in American markets, they end up in Asian markets. So when we talk about food security, when we talk about food safety, we are talking about all global citizens, and everyone is concerned. I encourage all of us to engage openly and think critically and challenge one another constructively as we move forward. You can as well participate in this program. Now, dear listener from the other side of radio, 0776 511 426 is the number you can call us or send your messages. We do value and respect your perspectives shared on this forum. Francis and Wambali, we're going to look into this and encourage and also teach and inspire the people of Uganda, especially those that may not be aware that health is there. But how do we link up with science? I come to you, I will start with you, Wambali, and we're looking at Uganda's food system. We're looking at the gap between the science evidence and the actual policy enforcement. We want to see how this passes. But before we go into that, I understand that for 7th this month, we joined the rest of the world to celebrate World Health Day. What does this mean to you both? If you can share experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Amon, for this curtain rise and introduction. Usually, from the science, I keep wanting to first communicate certain things. Like, if we talk about health, what are we even talking about? So when you look at the definition given to us by World Health Organization on what actually health is, you would get surprised that many times we have misquoted what health would mean. So when you're talking about health, the definition is very clear. It is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So those are the characteristics that we need to think about when you're talking about health. So the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, but not merely the absence of disease. So when you're talking about health, that is exactly what we are meaning. So we are not talking about whether people are sick or not, whether people are having infirmity or not. We are talking about a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So when we are commemorating the World Health Day, we're basically looking at how are our people physically, how are they mentally, how are they socially, how is their well-being, and that is what we commemorate on such a day. So each one of us is actually supposed to celebrate that day. And all of us who are responsible for health, we must take precaution of how do we protect our people to make sure that they remain healthy. Remember, the moment people are not healthy because maybe of the advancement in science, as we're going to explore later, because of, road accidents, because of mental health issues. Now you see in Uganda, almost everyone is getting mentally disturbed from the reports we get from the Ministry of Health. So you find that we cannot compromise such commemorations. But the question is, how do we use those celebrations to actually advance the health of our people, socially, mentally, but also the physical well-being of the communities out there. So we really join the entire world to look at the policies around health. How are the policies on our roads? How are the policies of healthcare? How are consumers who are accessing medical services or healthcare, how are they treated? How are they managed? How are they supported? Do we have treatment? Do we have medicines in our hospitals? Do we have actually infrastructure? Do we have, enabling environment to support healthcare? All the issues, but also which part of health are we talking about? It could be environmental health, it could be physical health. So in such commemorations, this is what we explore as a globe to understand the dynamics that actually advance the health of our people. So I think that when it comes to the World Health Day, we shouldn't look at it as just a commemoration of, leaders sitting down and then start discussing a few things here and there. But we look at it from the broad spectrum. Do we have the finances for health? Do we have human resources for health? Do we have medicines for health? Do we have preventive mechanisms for health of our people? How are our people eating? Which kind of water are our people drinking? Which kind of, people who are on sites, construction sites, how are we considering occupational health? All those are part of the commemoration of the World Health Day. If you look at people who are, for instance, supporting us, the casual laborers picking, waste from our homes, how are they dressed? How do we give them PPEs? What about our farmers who are in the garden spraying everywhere? How are they being managed? How is their health? So all of those are contextual issues. What about mothers who are giving birth? How is the maternal health? How are the children, neonates, etc.? How are the healthcare providers supported to actually be motivated to do their work? So when we commemorate, Mr. Amon, when we commemorate this day, these are the issues that are supposed to be looked at, and these are the issues that the world actually looks at. Issues of pollution, how are we managing pollution? Because all those are actually affecting the population's health, and at the end of the day, you and I, whether we are innocent or we know, we are all victims of that circumstance. So the population that is happening in one of the areas actually affects another area. So when we talk about the World Health Day, these are some of the areas that we try to explore, and we make sure that we come to a consensus on how to advance health of our people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Wambele. I come to you, Francis, to also get your perspective on what that day means, translates to you.
Thank you very much, Amon. And thank you, my brother, Bwambale. I think that the best place to start is to understand what health is. And my brother put it so very well. And I want to thank WHO for bringing this very, very clearly to everyone to understand. Health is not simply the absence of disease. I want just to repeat those words. It's the complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So we are looking at the person wholesomely, looking at every aspect around a person. And so this day is an opportunity. Just like other days, this day is an opportunity for us all to reflect on what are people living on, what are they using in their lives, what is upholding their health, what is promoting their health, what is killing them, what is making them uncomfortable. Where have we succeeded? Those are the points of reflection. Where have we gone wrong? What is working in terms of policies, in terms of partnerships, in terms of investments? What is working? And what is not working in terms of what has affected people so badly that we must wake up? There are so many challenges around health. Maybe later in this conversation we shall touch that. But I want to just point out one of the areas where we have a very big challenge in this country. When you go to the hospitals, especially the National Referral Hospital, there are sections you go and you actually shed tears because people are dying literally. Go to the Cancer Institute and you'll see what is happening. When you look at that picture and you're commemorating World Health Day, what should come to your mind as a policymaker, as a trader, as a health worker, as a communications person, as a media person? What should come to your mind? For me, what comes to mind is to have a candid reflection on these questions I've put out and what we must do. One, to address challenges that are getting to people. Two, to see what is working and how we can scale it so that we can benefit from it. Three, find out things that are not working, that are obsolete, and we discard them. Without emotions, let us be objective. And four, let us see what are the problems that are getting. Some of the challenges, if we do not do anything about them, later, sooner or later actually, we shall be engulfed in a very tight corner that we might not be able even to move out. So it is important that we use the day, the World Health Day commemoration, to reflect on these important aspects. And indeed, all the other days that we commemorate. It's important that all actors, policymakers, our leaders, health workers, people in business, people in media, the researchers, everyone, to pay attention to what matters when it comes to health by reflecting on those important questions. For me, that's what comes to my mind. And I think if you have very good responses in your mind, but also to the public, very good answers to these reflection questions, it makes then this day very important, that at the end of the day, we come out with solutions to the pressing challenges, to the needs of the people, to the needs of our country, to the needs of our Mother Earth. Thank you, Amon.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Francis. I come to you, Wambale. Going back to some of the pointers that you've put. Uganda has a multiple food safety actors, which we celebrate up to now. But where exactly are the coordination gaps? We have good policies, we have good actors, we have great institutions that we can rely on. When we talk about food safety in this country, we from the outside point, you may say you are already sorted. But who should be held accountable for these gaps?
Well, interesting. First of all, from where I sit, from my perspective, many things are not understood. And when they're not understood...
By who?
I am coming there. Many things are not understood. And so when we don't understand them, then it becomes difficult. For instance, when you talk about food safety, people think that food safety is just a small thing. By the way, food safety basically means what you and I and any other actor is doing out there on our food to make sure that that food is not contaminated. That is the summary of what food safety would mean. What you and I are doing, or any other food handler is doing, to make sure that the food is not contaminated. That is food safety. Now,
I may use this very opportunity as well to request you to also put a distinction between food security and food safety.
Yeah, sure.
For those who may be perplexed about the two terms.
Oh, yeah, interesting. So when you're talking about food safety, I always want to also reflect on what contaminates the food. Yeah. So when you're looking at food safety, we are talking about, for instance, the physical food hazards. When you get food, and then you find in your food, for instance, stones. You find a stone or sand in your food, or even hair. You've gone to restaurants and then they serve you food, kabalagala, but there is hair inside. So you start wondering which hair, where it is coming from, and blah, blah. But also you find feathers. You've seen those scenarios. They serve you beans, and then you find feathers. You find droppings of animals.
You are wondering, me who requested for beans, how do I get
exactly.
to get
and surprisingly,
feathers.
You even ask for beans, but you find bones. You get it. You go in a restaurant and say, well, I want beans. And then they give you beans with bones. So all those are physical hazards that actually contaminate food. And what is happening with our traders, because they want to increase the weight of the food, say they are selling 100 kilograms of maize, but then 5 kilograms are sand or soil. That is already causing a risk to food safety. So that is one thing that we can talk about on the physical hazards. But also, we have what we call biological hazards. Now, this is basically associated with hygiene, the way we handle food. If you go to Kampala, I am sorry to say, but if KCCA would help us, you see those public toilets, you would be surprised to find food there. People hiding food because they have to, move with them on the roads. So you'll find that now such can contaminate food. People don't wash hands. People just prepare food without hygienic conditions. People are wearing dirty clothing to prepare food. People are using dirty plates, utensils to prepare food. Now that can risk microorganisms to actually go into our food. That is now the biological issue. But also, you've heard about aflatoxins. Aflatoxins, they are actually part of the biologicals, that the food can get contaminated with aflatoxins, and then you send it to the market and is denounced in Kenya. You've seen trucks rejecting our food in Sudan. Just imagine Southern Sudan, whose people we are hosting as refugees here, but they also reject our food because of aflatoxins, which come because of poor handling. So that is another aspect. Recently, you must have seen that some countries actually recalled food products, baby food products from the market.
And when rejected by South Sudan or Kenya, they are brought back to Uganda.
Back to the sender. Back to the sender. Yeah, so I am trying to come slowly to your question. Where are we troubled? Because why should food be rejected in another country because of safety issues, and we never hear that has been banned? Because actually food which is rejected is supposed to be destroyed. Now the question is, if Kenya refuses tons from Uganda of maize because of challenges of safety, and Sudan rejects another consignment, what about the Ugandan? Where does the food end? Probably it ends in our schools, in our prisons, in our army barracks, in our homes, and so on our plates. So
in our restaurants,
etc., and where each one of us is actually picking a meal. Now, there are also other hazards, chemical hazards. What is on our plates in terms of chemical hazards is another thing. Can you imagine if you move from Kampala and you're going to the eastern part of this country, you find cassava and maize and potatoes and food being dried on tarmac roads? You must have seen that. If you go to the western part of the country, you see the same. If you go to the north, you see the same. What is surprising is that while people are drying these staple foods on a tarmac road, the tarmac road already on a hot day, it is also heating up, and so there is melting happening of the tarmac, and so the tar is entering the food. But where the food is drying is a road, and there's a traffic man. So when it comes to the actors, who is responsible? This work is not for Bernard, it's not for a Ministry of Health, it is for everybody.
Not the Ministry of Health indeed, or Agriculture.
Exactly. Just imagine how the road person becomes an actor, because he's standing on the road, stopping overspeeding vehicles, but the food is drying on his road. So if you look at that context, it starts giving you an idea of how the safety concerns are problematic. Now, the other issue, we have guidelines on street food vendors, for instance, people who are vending food. One of the guidelines, each of the street food vendors is supposed to be registered by the authority, and the authority must provide them a designated place where they're supposed to sell street foods. And thirdly, each of these guys is supposed to have medical checkup periodically. Now the question is, are our vendors meeting those guidelines? Those are basic guidelines. So who is supposed to do that? If someone is on the street selling food, are they registered? If they're not registered, who is supposed to register them? If they are supposed to be in a designated place, and for them they're not in that designated place, who is responsible for that? So when it comes to issues now of who is responsible, each one of us, consumers, government, industry, etc. We are all supposed to be taking lead in making sure that we are concerned, because this food is eaten by us. I have seen women and men who are farmers who spray maize, for instance, with herbicides. The maize is ready for eating, but they want it to dry, and then they are spraying a chemical to make every person, including us consumers, because we are the ones eating this food, and therefore we must be keepers of each other, ensuring that the food that is being provided to us, one, is safe, is nutritious. So when we start having those basic conversations of how people handle food, then I think we can start conversing now who is not doing their role. If you look at the business community, many times we talk about food adulterations, what we call food fraud. People are frauding food. Someone is selling you milk, but they are preserving it with formalin. Formalin, which is a chemical that is actually used in preservation of human dead bodies, and someone is putting it in your food. Now, if you got to know that, and the scientists have reported to the ministries and whatever, why isn't ministries, departments, and agencies taking action? Because from the research perspective, academia and researchers will provide us the evidence. Now, how is evidence being used in this country is another problem. The other reported that the oil we are using on our streets is not fit for human consumption. As a research entity, they are done. They have disseminated, they have given results to the entity that is responsible.
They have done their role.
Exactly. Now, who is supposed to follow up? Where is KCCA in this? Where is Ministry of Health in this? Where is maybe the ministry responsible for trade? Where is the UNBS? You get it, in terms of the standards. If the standards are in existence and they have given them to an MDA that is supposed to implement them, how is this MDA implementing the provisions of the standard or of the law? By the way, those are the things that make us fail to actually secure the safety of the food. The ignorance is too high. People do not know. People are not aware. Secondly, capacity is not there. We don't have sufficient capacity, because the question would be, if I send food to Kenya, where did it pass for it to be rejected back to Uganda? Did the UNBS do their part? Probably not. But if the UNBS was supposed to do their part, are they facilitated to do that? Do they have infrastructure? Do they have machinery? Do they have human resource? Do they have the money to do that? So all those are considerations we need to think about in advancing the safety of the food. Lastly, on this question is the issue you asked me to explain on food security. Now that we've understood aspects of food safety, now food security basically is defined by 4 things. Ensuring that everybody, anywhere and anytime, that is the definition, has access to safe, nutritious, and adequate food. Now, when you're discussing food security, you have to bring in the concept of availability. Is food available? Do people actually have food? Can you see it? That is one, which my brother Francis and team are working on, production. Secondly, if that food is available, can we access it? The issue of accessibility. You can have a lot of food, but people are not accessing the food. For instance, you hear that Karamoja people are starving to death. But when we have a lot of food getting wasted in Kampala or even in Mbale, a lot of food is rotting. Do you know that over 40% of our fruits and vegetables are not consumed? They are just lost in there or wasted. They don't reach the final consumer. But the consumer in Karamoja is dying. The question is, why is this so? Maybe the government has not invested enough in managing food waste, or we've not done enough to advance infrastructure to improve the storage of our food. The Constitution provides government, even the food policy, the Food and Nutrition Policy of 2003, provides that this government is supposed to have food reserves. I do not know where they are. I am a nutritionist. I have not seen them. So these food reserves are supposed to get excess food and store it for future use when we have trouble. But we have that infrastructure in place. I was interacting with vendors who vend milk, and the guy told me, you guys, you've been telling us about formalin, and I've been using it for the last 5 years. I didn't know that was actually bad. And I asked them why they're using it. They said, no, look here, we don't have electricity for 1 week, but I have stocked 10,000 liters of milk. How do you want me to keep the milk? So you see how the Ministry of Energy comes in there. So the food issue, when you talk about availability and access, we need to think about those critically. Then the number 3 on that is, are we able to utilize the food? Your body, when you eat it, is your body able to utilize the food? In other words, is it nutritious? Is it safe? Is it adequate? Now that is utilization. And lastly is the issue of sustainability. Are people able to sustainably have food present, accessible, and utilized all the year through? So when you look at those 4 components, now you have talked about food security. So food security is broader. Food safety is one of the elements that is supposed to be under that food security bit. I hope that answers some of the questions.
No, actually, all of the questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad we're joined by our own and is a family member when it comes to UBC Ground Zero. Ojabili Augustine, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Amon, and our dear listeners. I would want to apologize for coming late. Ojabili Augustine is my name.
All right, interesting. We shall come to you. Let's first get into science, as we're talking about health. And when we get to these scientists, we always trying to utilize time to share with them. But I will get to you, Ojabili, later on. Francis, before I bring in the Ojabili, looking at what Wambali has shared, looking at our country, Uganda. You said that you represent 8 countries on this forum. Looking back at the agroecology, which is often praised, but also we look at the funding, which is not coming through, being unfunded. What are the main or other barriers to scaling it across East Africa, or even starting with Uganda? Because I don't think if we are failing at the national level, we shall be progressing at the regional level. Francis.
Thank you very much, Amon. And I think I want to start from a point of agroecology being something you have brought out on the table.
Yeah.
Because I think our listeners need to understand that agroecology is very important in this discussion, and agroecology is not a very complex thing. It is growing food using natural methods and approaches that do not harm the environment, and that we can sustainably produce food even when we are long gone. The generations that will come will be able to produce food and have it safe. I think one of the reasons why people may not, or why agroecology may not be scaled up at the speed that we want, is the lack of knowledge. Let me start from there. Maybe people do not know that this is a very important approach that we should use. What I know and what I've seen in my work around the 5 countries that I work in is the fact that people are very quick to go and get whatever is available, and without asking whether it is safe or not. So people are happy to get what is available, and you can see that the traders are bringing in anything and everything. We are going to come to that again later. But agroecology is one of the things that we should emphasize and have our farmers, our ministries of agriculture, and all the stakeholders that are working in the food systems understand and be able to stand with. The reason why it might not grow and be even funded is because if government, for example, has not picked it up at that level, it will be hard for a big investor to think about agroecology. But I'm very glad to say that in Uganda, for example, but also in Kenya, the governments have taken up a very important step of having agroecology at the center of their discussions. In Uganda, we have the National Organic Agriculture Policy, which was ratified, which was endorsed in 2019. But as we speak, we are working on the National Agroecology Strategy. and the Ministry of Agriculture has been handy in making sure that this happens. In our neighboring Tanzania, they actually approved their national agroecology strategy in 2024, and the Minister of Agriculture was actually the chief guest. Now, when the ministries and the governments take center stage in discussing an important aspect like agroecology, we have hope that it will pick up. In Kenya, the counties, because if you know, Kenya has the county government system, and the counties have developed their agroecology strategies, and many of them have now approved them. In Rwanda, the same thing. In Madagascar, they have an agroecology working draft strategy. So this is what is happening, and I'm very happy to report that with this, we are going to have the agroecology practices and skills now scaled up, especially through the extension workers and through the civil society and the farmer communities themselves. I work on an initiative that builds capacity of extension workers. We call them multipliers. And what we build capacity on is organic agriculture and agroecology. How you can grow food sustainably. A little bit middle age have adopted, have embraced the practices and have taken them to the communities, the farming communities. And the farmers themselves are also aware. Now, the problem that I started with is lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. Even the Bible says, my perish because of anything but not knowing, lack of knowledge. So it is the knowledge gap that we must address. When we go to the farmers and we tell them that we need to use agroecological practices to sustainably produce food, they will tell you that we actually know is we had no idea of how to come up with the inputs. Now that you're telling us, we are going to do this. And I'm also happy to note that the governments have also taken another bold step of delisting the toxic inputs. Last week, Uganda was on the global map, if I can use that statement, because the Ministry of Agriculture came out with a list of 18 molecules, 9 of them being phased out and 9 of them being restricted. Now, this is important information for us, but also a very good step towards safety of food. And when we talk about safety of food, we are talking about before you even grow the food, what have you used? Bernard here explained contamination, but he was looking, his explanation and concentration was on the after harvesting. But I want to even bring the process of production, because we need to know what kind of seed, for example, have you used? What inputs have you used? Are you using organic fertilizer, for example? We have a lot of that available. Are you using agroecological methods to produce? And then when it comes to post-harvest handling, what methods, what approaches do we have? These things we cover in our capacity building sessions with farmers, but also with value chain actors. In this country, we transport, and I want to delve a little bit into the livestock. In this country, we transport cows from wherever they are, coming from Teso, Nkole. We've seen those trucks. And let me tell you, it is just because people do not know. It's not because we cannot do the right thing. For me, I think it's because people do not know the gravity of making meat bad. Because let me tell you, if you go to the villages and buy a kilo of meat of a cow that was slaughtered from its farm, and you come and eat meat in Kampala, there is a very big difference. Even in the taste. So if people knew that even this is something that is contaminating food, transporting food is contaminating food big time, then we would come up with very innovative ways of doing things, Instead of transporting live animals, why not have places where we can have the meat prepared and transport the meat instead? So, Amon, there are so many things around this, but agroecology is a very good approach that we must embrace, and thank you for bringing this on the table. And I think and hope that all stakeholders will embrace this, because it is not only for the farmers, it's actually for everyone in the food system. Over to you, Amon.
Interesting. Thank you so very much. Ojabila, I come to you having heard from these scientists. You actually are getting from the horse's mouth how dangerous these things are. And some of us, I don't know whether we're taking them for granted, but I think most of us are very innocent consuming some foods, even when they are contaminated. But coming to you, these are coming from the respective disciplines, being scientists, but also be you coming from a political party, you coming from the policy making systems. What is your specific alternative policy? Looking at the party politics or your party's specific alternative policy on food security, for example, or even when we talk about safety compared to the current government, is there anything that we have missed out that you think if we implemented it, if we introduced it, if it is established, we are going to be having a better future, we are going to be having good health, but also looking at the lives of Ugandans which are being or which are perishing because of lack of that knowledge?
When we look at the factor of food, I would want to begin from the last speaker's conclusive remarks. It is a bit hard. I would want to begin maybe by asking a question in terms of issues of transporting ready meat. How feasible and really qualitative it can be that you're going to transport meat, because we know these areas that actually have do we think that transportation of fish to the various areas makes it better with those ways of preserving it, or it is even better eating it fresh from the water and you consume it within the premises or around the areas without transporting it using those freezers and all the systems that would preserve the fish from the water showers to around 5-10 districts before it is consumed, or even crossing the borders. So to me, I think transporting cattle itself is better than deheading it, and then transport meat. To me, I think transporting meat is more insecure than transporting the real cattle. That is to my view. For you, in your scientific view, you can give us more details, just relating to fish, whether the fish you consume after traveling so many kilometers is better than the one you consume at the showers. Then we can see the difference. Then my colleague here talked about the issue of, preserving food, not storage of food, in terms of the national character. Obviously, that is good, but we need to understand that I think decentralizing the issue of keeping food is better. Let every home have something to keep. It should be a must. Why should we have a national reserve without the family reserve? A family must have its own reserve and consume at that point of crisis. Just like we go and work, you must at least have somewhere you throw a 1K and say, every day I'm going to throw my 1,000 somewhere. When my child is sick, at least I have something to begin with. So it should be a national policy that every family must have a food basket somewhere. Even if it is in a garden, you say, I have bought this cow for purposes of crisis management. I have bought these goats for purposes of crisis management. And I am making this food reserve to make sure that I have my nuts there and I have my everything there. Then on the issue of consumption rate, it's good you brought statistics that 40% of the fruits or even the food in general gets wasted in most cases, especially Kampala and urban centers. And then the question is, why are the people of Karamoja suffering? You see, we need to understand the challenges affecting each area. Yes, government might even wish to buy maybe what would be wasted. But does it even know that you want tomatoes? It doesn't know, because because for the farmer, a farmer is going to look for red market. So that's why they will come to Kampala. When you look at the consumption rate of the people you're referring to, maybe Karamoja, majority of them do not consume what the people in Kampala actually consume. For them, they would want to go and have something fresh from the garden. Even animals, I hear, if they want to take blood, they will just pierce some area they know where blood would ooze easily, and then they consume that blood without killing the animal. So for you, if you're given that opportunity, you will murder the animal immediately. So I think at that point we should excuse the government. It is very hard for you really to determine that now these people, I think they should now be eating maize during this period. But in Kampala, you know that you have over 3 million people. So the consumption capacities are also that this one will buy maize, the other one will buy maybe ice cream, the other one will buy chapati, the other one okay. So somehow, somewhere, I think our listeners need to be helped in this at this point, that you cannot determine what someone will consume, not until you ask that person. And you can't ask that person every day, now, what will you eat tomorrow, so that the government can bring then the other day. It is very, very hard. So maybe as I delve into the issue now, you see, in 1949, there was the American policy, the Monsanto, which came into play. 1949, if I've not forgotten my history. And that policy was meant to bring out the aspect of how the United States of America can capture the entire world without even going to war. Without going into war, using arms and ammunitions, without even maybe capturing a president of a certain country. But they would literally capture you through food. And then that was when these funny things started to be introduced. And then funny policies started. They started pushing these funny policies into countries to make sure that they either adopt to them in kind or by force. So you are either influenced through your parliament, where parliamentarians are given some incentives to make sure that these policies are adopted in their countries, or you are coerced to make sure that you go into a crisis and then they will introduce their products. Of recent, I think, when did our parliament pass this issue of, was it, I think it's like 5 or 6 years back, if I'm not forgetting. But to us alone, it also affects our production. I would want to bring this to the local person's understanding. You see, in music, majority of us only understand the final production. That I'm going to call Amon and say, Ntera akawa kayimba. Teakani. Tono mwala ani yeita kweni shiba. Ne yanze. Mkama ne yanze. Okay? Now, the Amon will understand that, oh, you want ne yanze from Shiba, Karunji. But you do not know the process Shiba Karunji went through
to make that
to make sure out. that product is out. Now, this is the food that we are only, in most cases, focusing on going to the market product. And get that maize roasted, eat it. We do not even mind about the land. How is the land managed? It is poisonous these days. That the moment you put maize in that particular land, you cannot go back, even to put back the same maize you have harvested from that land. You must go and buy fresh maize somewhere, produced, I don't know from what. You see the things. So that land is already poisonous. If it cannot accommodate the same species it has produced to produce more. Those days they could give you 4 seedlings. Your grandmama would say, now my son, you are in town. You take these seedlings and go and plant. You go and plant those 4. Those are maize. You put your small hole somewhere because you are learning how to farm. Now he's teaching you. I was young, I think 7 years. When I went back to Terego, my grandmama, who is late, gave me about 5 seedlings and said, I was at your place. I saw you had some land there. You take this and plant. Just make two holes. Then you put there. I came and put. That maize grew up and I
7 years you are already a farmer.
Yes. And I had some good cobs. Afterwards, I used the 3 cobs to plant the whole area. Now I was helped by my elder sister and brother to make sure that the whole garden is now taken care of. But the same seed that came out of the garden, today, you can't do that. Have we even bothered to understand why this is happening? We are now consuming products we don't even know where they came from. As I've told you, the Monsanto program of 1949 has consumed the entire world. And now they are the ones giving us products to plant, and they will even determine the productivity because they will know what they have given you can't produce anything. And in the end of the day, you will have to make phone calls. Please, now our people are dying of hunger. They will run to some other countries where they had bought or taken over land. They are planted in large quantities and then bring to rescue these countries.
Well, for example, from your perspective and also submissions, one would think that we are doomed. What is is hope all gone?
No. I'm not saying that we are doomed. But what I'm trying to show you is that at one point we are going to reach a breakneck that we may not be able to have adopted. That if you can't plant the same product that you have got from that particular land, what if you waste in about 10 acres your money, go plant, and yet it is the other product which had been earmarked, it will not reproduce. It will not produce even, it will not give back to the farmer. Now, you have wasted 10 acres. These 10 acres have not given you anything. You have wasted money. What is the return in investment? Now, the example I wanted to give you is about Uganda and Tanzania. In 1989, when President Museveni had just come into power, he had the opportunity to share views with the various presidents, and for him he wanted to continue with what we call barter trade. And they would give he would give Tanzania maize, and then Tanzania would give us generators, because we had shortage of electricity. So for him, would say, okay, these areas need generators, and for you have many of them. I think by that time for them they had multitudes. So they would give us. Then we would give them maize. Now, when America saw that Uganda was maybe trending very well with Tanzania, it went to Tanzania after failing to block Museveni. It went to Tanzania and told them, we are giving you maize. We don't even need your generators. And immediately...
But you had a pattern, no?
So
who you are giving generators and I was giving you maize. This one is not...
So they gave the maize and they took nothing. So in one way or the other, it was the way of kicking Uganda out, and then you occupy Tanzania fully. And that is now what will take place still. Today or tomorrow, America is still implementing its Monsanto program.
Interesting. But looking back and also assessing the government's performance, how do you assess the government's performance in protecting the citizens from the unsafe food systems currently? As I will come to you, Wambale, on the use of pesticides,
now,
which Ojabili is talking about.
When we look at the government, it has put so many systems on ground. Unfortunately, when you put a system on ground and it does not have an opportunity to function as it must, then that's where the challenge comes. That you have UNBS. It is supposed to make sure that there is quality assurance before anything happens. You have UBOS, which is continuously making research. Now we have this number of people. We need this number of, we need food to this quantity. We need housing to this level. Okay? You have Agricultural Research Institute, which must be giving us feedback on what products are on the market and what products must not be on the market. Then you have the Uganda Research Institute, which must also be doing a lot of research outside, even if it is not agriculture related, it must be health related. So you have all these departments helping each other in one way or the other. However, the problem is not those departments. The problem is that generally the Ugandan political system is fractured. That majority of these organs must first listen what is Amon saying. If Amon has said A, it is very hard for you to say B. He brought for you an analysis here. I don't know, I'm forgetting your name. Bernard. Bernard tells you that the Makerere Institute made research on the oils we are using, that majority of them are fake and not good for Uganda, for human consumption. Now, after that research, what are other departments doing? That should be our concern. That the Makerere Institute has come out with a clear research, and it tells you the oils. It says now the oils Ugandans. It does not tell you about oils coming from nuts. It is telling you refined oils, meaning that they are ingredients that are not meant for human consumption. Only that up to today, we have also not got feedback report. Parliament should be taking up some of these things because they are the representatives of the citizens. They take policies, they make policies and take decisions. So where is the Parliament in this? That even if Minister of Health is sleeping on duty, and maybe the Agriculture Institute is also sleeping on duty, maybe the Minister of Industries is also sleeping on duty. So where is the Parliament, which is the supervisor of this country? This is where we must be really focusing our attention to. But however, because the systems are fractured, even the Parliament is now sleeping and also fractured under its leadership. So I really find it very hard to say we have something so good to present to the citizens. We have a problem in the country, and the problem must be sorted with sanitizing the entire system. Otherwise, you cannot say we are going to work on the agriculture department, yet the rest of the departments are equally fractured.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, Jabil. I come to you, Bernard. You talked about the use of fertilizers. The other day I saw that the ministry, the government was recalling all the agrochemicals that had already been on the market, and help us understand how dangerous these chemicals that we're using, because at least every farmer, you would have seeds to plant in the next season, but also you would try much to save to buy the pesticides, because without them you are likely not to get any harvest. How safe or dangerous are these chemicals that every day we are using and consuming at the end of the day?
Well, thank you so much for this question, and thank you so much for comrade for telling us a lot of your perspectives. I had wanted to respond to some of his questions, but I think Francis will do, so that we can help to break down some bit of science, especially when it comes to transportation of animals versus meat. There's a whole science there. But let me first respond to the quick question that Amon asks. Now, Amon, when it comes to agrochemicals, there are some realities that we need to deal with. First reality is that there is climate change. And this climate change is already affecting production of food and productivity of our fields. Of course, climate change comes with a lot of things, pests and diseases for crops and animals. It comes with, production going lower. All those are theories that have been talked about in so many boardrooms, in so many studies. The second reality is that the population has also increased. That is also true, that the population has increased, but this population requires food. So amidst the increase of the population, we must continue feeding the population. Now, having these two realities, maybe the third reality would be that pests and diseases are now a norm. Everywhere you'll find pests and diseases which would certainly affect production. And so the scientists come up and say, no, but we can get a solution. We cannot lose productivity because of, pests and diseases. So they start coming up with molecules, pesticides, fertilizers, and other agrochemicals to use, one, claiming to improve production, saying that because of climate change, these chemicals will be able to help us. Now, this is where the science comes in. So the scientific community comes up with solutions, and this is appreciated. We cannot run away from the science. But where the problem is, which kind of agrochemicals are we making and which kind of agrochemicals are we giving to the population? Now, internationally, these chemicals have been categorized in different forms. And for today, let me specifically talk about the highly hazardous pesticides. You need to quote that very well. There's what we call highly hazardous pesticides. Now, we have a criteria. Globally, it's a global thing. Everyone has access to it. So there's a criteria that we use to categorize a chemical to fall under highly hazardous pesticides. So one of the criteria is, if you bring on board a chemical and we test it and we find that that chemical can cause a cancer. Now, in our language of scientists, now that's what we call carcinogens or carcinogenic. A molecule or a compound or a chemical that can cause a cancer on exposure, that is listed as a highly hazardous pesticide. And once it is listed, it has to be taken off the market or it must be restricted. So that is one. Two, there is another category of chemicals that are mutagenic. Now, mutagenic in simple terms means that when you have exposure, just exposure to this chemical, it can change your DNA or it can alter your genetic makeup. Can you imagine that? So once we see that a chemical falls into that, then we put it off the market or it is restricted. That is the category 2. The other is that we have chemicals which are reproductive toxicants. That is the name. That when you have exposure to them, then you can have reproductive issues. If you're a man, you may go into impotence. If you're a woman, you can become infertile just by mere exposure to that kind of chemical. We've had a lot of studies that I've been sharing with most of the colleagues about this kind of reproductive issue. Let us check for women. We have a study that shows women who are more having exposure to these chemicals, these dangerous chemicals, having challenges with menstrual periods. You either have menstrual periods irregularly, or they are so deep that they are so painful, or you actually skip them. We have that kind of study available. We have seen that women, for instance, who have high exposure to highly hazardous pesticides, they go into preterm deliveries. You're supposed to deliver at 9 months, but then for you are delivering at 7. There's a high risk. The other around women is that we have, you know the way women, but by design, the way they ease themselves, if they want to ease themselves, they have to squat. Imagine this farmer who has just sprayed a dangerous chemical, but she has to ease herself. So how does she do it? She's going to squat, and then I mean, you've just sprayed there, but then
you go somewhere.
I mean, you are in the garden. You've just sprayed, and then you have to urinate, and you're a lady. What happens with the exposure of the chemical you've just put there? So we have all these studies that show all this. They have deliveries challenges. Sometimes they give birth to preterm babies. Sometimes they have stillbirth. All that is surrounding the reproductive issue. So such chemicals are supposed to be removed, or they are supposed to be highly restricted. Others are toxic to pollinators. Now, Francis will tell you that you cannot produce food without pollination. 80% of the food we eat is actually pollinated by animals or bees or insects or whatever. But we see that some of these chemicals are toxic to pollinators. So what is going to happen when we don't have the pollinators? We cannot produce the food. And by the way, surprisingly, some of these pollinators, like the bees, they are just not pollinators. They also give us food. They will give us the honey and other bee products. But how safe are those products? We already have studies showing pesticide residues in honey. So while you're talking about all those things, this classification is globally acceptable. And then we have others which are toxic to aquatic life, which means that when these chemicals enter the water, they can actually destroy the aquatic systems, fish and etc. Now you'll see fish reducing in our water bodies, or you'll see fish come to market but is contaminated with the chemicals. Now, having understood this, maybe one other criteria we use is the endocrine disruptors. Endocrine system is that system of your body that is responsible for hormones, the hormones that make your base, the hormones that regulate everything in control of your body. Now, some of them are too dangerous that when they go into our bodies, they actually disrupt that system of hormones. Now, having understood this criteria, these molecules or these chemicals that fit within this context I've just shared, they are taken off the market. And the European Union keeps deregistering them because they are actually the major producers of most of these. So for them, the moment they see research showing that, they take them off. Now, this is where the surprise is. Let me come back to local context. In Uganda, 65.5% of the agrochemicals we have been using, they are not used in their countries of origin.
Why? And that should
because and this is where I started from. And this is the magic where I started with the criteria. So 65% of what we have been using as a country, 65.5% of the chemicals,
round off to the nearest
around about 66% of the chemicals, agrochemicals we've been using in this country have either been banned in the countries of origin, or they are not even registered there. And it's what we are using. So this informed our advocacy campaigns that I and the team and Francis and all, what we've been running up with the Ministry of Agriculture and government. So, wait, look here. Why should we expose our people to these dangerous molecules? Why do we do that? Where is the sovereignty? By the way, we have even a law, Africa, as a continent, called the Bamako Convention. Bamako Convention, we are signatories as a country. And in that convention, we as Africa and supposed to ban every chemical that has been banned elsewhere. That is the law. So we wondered, why then, if we have a framework as a continent?
Maybe the soil
No way.
are different.
There has been a narrative by the industry. I have also to say it. Thank you for bringing it. The narrative says that, well, you see, in the tropics, and then others are in the, what would be the opposite of the tropics? Okay, the Sub-Sahara and whatever. So we have different weather and whatever. What causes a cancer to an European is the same that can cause a cancer to a Ugandan. By the way, we have a lot of documented evidence, which we haven't shared with the ministries, showing that $60 million is lost in Uganda here because of rejects of our vegetables and fruits. Why? Because of residues of chemicals, especially pesticides. We have further evidence now showing in different districts.
Only vegetables.
For vegetables, 60 million. So if you add others, you will go to almost 100. We have evidence showing that some of these residues are now present in breast milk. Just imagine breast milk. We have evidence showing that the chemical residues are found in community water sources. Community water sources where our people are picking water. We have another study indicating presence of chemicals like atrazine, for instance, present in our air. For 6 solid months of that study, this chemical is present in the air. And this is the air you and I are breathing. This is, and you know, why not make noise about it?
For me, I would want to understand the causes.
No, just a minute, just a minute.
Like the air being contaminated by that. Then the community water bodies.
Yes.
Because now a community water body, I want to presume the water is even dug from the ground.
True.
So where is the contamination?
Well, now this is the risk. But where the different hazards come in, how do our farmers spray? Our farmers, for them, they are not even informed. They will go and spray, and after one day, they harvest. You've seen tomatoes in our markets, how they are sprayed?
With the whitish
yes.
kind of...
Now that kind of chemical can even be sprayed within the market now. You go to the market and the vendors are even mixing. So the farmers are not following even the instructions. First of all, do they even understand the instructions on those labels? Secondly, you are supposed to spray when you are dressed with PPEs. But how many of our farmers use the PPEs? How many of them even are aware of those PPEs? How many of them even can afford the PPEs? The other issue is, if you go to our villages, you know that this seed that they are selling to our farmers, most of it is coated with these chemicals. But you know how our farmers in the villages do it? They actually use their mouth
to test.
No, to plant. You've seen women, they put seed in the mouth and they keep on... Yeah, but imagine a chemical on the seed, but in someone's mouth.
Remember, these seeds slept in water for 20
I did it. So there's a lot of mess. So there's a lot of exposure they have because of mismanagement, mishandling, but also lack of information. But we are happy that the Ministry of Agriculture, after a long period of time, the ministry has come up to ban at least 9. Tanzania banned, actually they withdrew 805. For us, we are taking off 9. Kenya, late last year, they banned 77 and restricted 202. So, but for us, we are happy that the ministry has taken a step, at least to ban 9, which fall into the categories I've explained. But also they have restricted other 9, which also fall under this. The magic is, please, what has been restricted does not mean they are safe. We also need to take that carefully. They have restricted them for use in some things. For instance, for wood, for anthills, those are the restrictions. Or usage in coffee, like imidacloprid, I've seen they have restricted for coffee, but they haven't put a but that farmers must use it only after flowering because it is dangerous to bees. But are our farmers going to understand these dynamics? If something is hazardous, it remains hazardous. So I think we need to renegotiate with government moving forward. I hope that
Francis,
answers.
thank you so much, Wamale. Francis, as you help us understand, how do these chemicals access our market? As if we don't have working systems, we do not have actors that are responsible. Is there anyone who is sleeping on the job? But also, what do you advise? You also had a comment to reply to Jobili's concerns before we take a break.
Great. Thank you, Amon. Thank you, Augustine. I think Augustine comes in with very important discussions when he speaks of his grandmother giving him a seed. When you are saying that, because yes, we have community seed banks that provide our, and we want to do that campaign as much as we can do it among the communities that are farming. We work with farmers big time, and we want to improve their capacity in knowing all these things. But maybe to delve a bit into the question you started with, meat from a stressed animal often lower fridges from Kabale or from Teso. But there are many other solutions. Probably we could bring those nearer to the slaughterhouse and have training centers.
Yeah, sure.
So if animals are brought nearer, for example, to a place around Masaka, and then they can be transported to Kampala. What we are talking about is to transport animals in a way that is not stressful. Mm-hmm. And this is possible. But when you look at what we are doing in this country, and everybody is looking on, everybody knows what happens and nothing is being done. So we can improve so that we get better meat from our animals. Meat from a stressed animal is lower in quality and less safe, actually poisonous. Okay, it has it has a high risk of carrying pathogens like salmonella and others. So this is what I'm trying to put out. People should know, and all those who are concerned, the policymakers, people who are in the value chain of meat should understand, and we find a way of getting our meat better. Getting back to what Amon asked, the pesticides, how are they getting here? And what can we do? I think there are many things. We must have all the stakeholders who are in this in these areas, especially the Ministry of Trade, the UN Uganda National Bureau of Standards, MAIF itself, because MAIF is very key in agricultural inputs in this country. You know, most of these are imported. Most of these dangerous things are imported in here. They
access our markets, and when you see in the papers, the government is recalling agrochemicals that are already on the market.
Exactly.
Someone has already put in money and has bought gel cans of this.
Someone invested even a branch somewhere in the village.
Exactly. So this is where the problem is.
And just recalling, you may not call all the farmers to return them.
Even paying taxes and telling you I'm paying this amount of money every month.
Exactly. So we may not have all of them, cleared out of the villages and communities. They will still be there. But what our role is to make sure that farmers understand and the value chain actors understand that these that have been recalled, we have even more that need to be recalled. But our campaign is to ensure that people understand the messages. And we have alternatives. And I want now to speak about the alternatives. We have very many alternatives. Like I told you, we work with young men and women who are entrepreneurs in agro inputs, and they are doing agroecological products. Yesterday I was just talking to a group of them. We support them. In Uganda we have over 300 multipliers that we have trained under the initiative Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Eastern Africa. In Eastern Africa, across all the other countries, we have over 1,800 young men and women who are taking the approaches of agroecology to the farmers and to the communities. In Uganda here, I want to just give you an example. We have Jimusa Organic Foliar. This fertilizer is made by a Ugandan young man called Kakande here in Wakiso. And what we need is to support such initiatives. If government can take interest in such initiatives, give them support. We have innovation centers here, and we have challenge funds around this country. NSSF is doing a great job in challenge funds. Stanbic Bank, I've had so many. But these are the initiatives that we need such kind of funding to go to. We have a young woman around Mitiana Road. She's called Elizabeth. She's also producing organic inputs. She has eco-friendly solutions, foliar, fertilizer, etc. We also have a factory on, I think it's on Bombo Road, somewhere as you go to Luero. It is producing organic inputs. And this is what we want to do. in as much as the conventional inputs are still here, we want to say that we can have the organic and agroecological products, and they are available, they are safe. Some of these, we have Kulika. Kulika is also producing inputs, and they are just here on Hoima Road, I think, not very far from here. So these are the alternatives that we have. In as much as the market might be flooded with what we don't want, we want to say that the alternatives are available, and we are calling on the traders, especially the traders, to embrace the agroecology inputs that we have. And we are calling upon government and all institutions that can support such initiatives to grow. The challenge funds, look out for these and support them to commercialize, to scale their production. And then we shall be saying bye-bye to all these conventional products. Let me finish with this. I think we need to understand that when you get your land used to fertilize, conventional fertilizer, time comes when it cannot produce anything without conventional fertilizer. True. In Kenya, the arable land that is available to Kenyans is only 20% of that country. And why they call Uganda a food basket, which is very true, is because Uganda is not as bad. Kenya has used fertilizer to the bone marrow. Yeah. And now they cannot produce anything in most of the places until they apply. Now that becomes a very, it's a paradox. It's a place where you don't want to be. So everyone who is listening to us, pay attention. The use of conventional synthetic fertilizers and
what
inputs.
What is conversion? Break it down.
Scientific
for the
chemical-based fertilizers are not good for our soils. We have natural, agroecological, and organic inputs that can be used and can be used sustainably. So I want us to embrace the use of the organic inputs that are coming up. I want all of us, traders, researchers, universities, MPs and parliamentarians, ministries, to support these initiatives that are coming up with natural and sustainable inputs, so that we can now have a very good alternative to what people have been using. And we want also to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, but also say that there are many more, molecules that we need to pay attention to, and probably delist them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I'm taking a very short break, and when we return, we're going to be receiving some of your calls and reading out your messages on 0776 511 426. The number is 0776 511 426. That is our studio line, and also we shall get in touch with the Deus Mubangizi, who is the manager at testing laboratories at Uganda National Bureau of Standards, to enlighten us more about the topic and how do these things really access our country, our market. We want to keep every Ugandan safe and secure. I'm returning just a bit. I pray don't go away.
This is Ground Zero. Stay tuned. We shall be right back.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate, and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza Muganda kito kugumaza, to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people, so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza, naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back. It's hot.
We lost it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about it.
Every Saturday, UBC Radio broadcasts the Information Hub, your one-stop dial radio show. Join us to learn and know more information about innovations, research, and developments. The The Information Hub. Knowledge is power on UBC Radio. Inspiring Uganda. Welcome back. Ground Zero Season 2 continues.
Interesting. Welcome back from that very short break. This is UBC Ground Zero, and I welcome you to our second part of our program. 0776-511-426. Tell us what you think on our topic. Together for Science and stand with Together for Health, stand with science is our topic, following a few days ago when we joined the rest of the world to commemorate World Health Day, and we look at some of the things that we benefit from science, but how best can we secure ourselves to remain safe and secure. You're live on UBC radios.
Yes. Good morning.
Very good morning to you. Your name and where you're calling us from, sir?
I'm calling you from Ayaza. I've been Matthew.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I've been following your radio message very well, particularly on chemicals affecting humans in food. And recently there has been in the press that some chemicals have been withdrawn from market, but left for until June. How safe is that one to the community? If they are still left, they are restricted but left up to June, and to end the function here, is that really how we are protecting our people?
Okay, sir. Thank you so very much, sir. UBC radios, we are on 5 radio stations that cover this program, 0776-511-426. Right. You're live on UBC radios. Hello. You're live on UBC Ground Zero, sir. Or madam? Okay. Can call again. Hello.
Yes, Amon. Good morning.
A very good morning to you, my brother.
Juma calling from Buteega.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today's topic. And from my side, I could say, via health, we need one another. If I, as a person, I said we need one another, we call upon all government institutions which are concerned about the priority as a health to be considered. We will call for service delivery. We need those setups of health centers being made within the community, mostly in up country. We need those health centers to be facilitated. We need medicines to be inside the store. The store should not run a shortage of medicine. We need security for those institutional health services centers to be paramount. We need strict measures. The ethic of health workers. We need even these insurance. Let me say, health workers, they deserve to have insurance. Like for them also, when they are sick, government can cater for them. So, UNBS as well, what are in the market, you are giving stamps to all over. Yeah, to be innovative is okay, but for human consumption, are they healthy? So we need one another. It is a collective effort.
Okay,
and
sir.
we fight back corruption. Corruption is the one killing all those developments.
All right.
Thank you so much, Amon.
You're welcome. UBC Ground Zero, 500 radio stations, UBC Butebo, UBC Radio, Magic 100 FM, UBC West Nile, Voice of Butebo. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. You just put UBC Ground Zero and you'll be part of the conversation. In studios, we're talking about your health, and also we look at the science. We look at the good things, but also the bad things, in that we keep ourselves secure. We don't want to. And one posed the question: did you know that you could be eating toxic foods? What are you doing to stay safe if we are getting this right from the garden. They go into the factories every day. Amon, I think we are feeding on toxic food, and all right. 0776511426. Amon, the other day we had Parliament rejecting some of the drinks, and one wonders, how do those drinks also access our markets? Yes, we are promoting local content and industries, but where is UNBS that approves these drinks that access our markets? I'm Obed in Nile. All right, we're supposed to get in touch with DEUS and to also let us know what UNBS is doing to make sure that Ugandans are safe, especially when it comes to the things that we consume and the things that are on our market. I understand that some of those agrochemicals that the government recalled were not is not their responsibility as UN-based, but the Ministry of Agriculture. But also there are concerns that UNBS is supposed to handle and also address, not just those agrochemicals. Trying to get in touch with Deus Mvangizi, who is the manager testing laboratories at UNBS, to address some of these concerns, and in that we can be able to understand where the problem is coming from. I understand from the other side of every time we go to the hospitals and you're diagnosed, you just don't go there and you're given medicine. Diagnosis is always important, and if we know where the problem is coming from, we can get to the bottom of it, and we know how best we can solve it. Unfortunately, Deus is unable to get Deus, and we shall keep trying until we get hold of him, and in that he can share his perspectives and what UN-based as an institution that we have entrusted with the noble role ensuring that our standards, especially for the things that we do consume, is safe and secure. Allow me to go to the studios, but also I have some messages. You keep your messages coming through or calling on 776-511-426 and tell us what you think needs to be done to make sure that all of us are safe from this. I am Simon that young. Thank you for the program, UBC. Have you heard of the food power and the grain diplomacy, where most of the things are calculated, and most of the things that we consume is not because there is some farmer who is not sure of the chemicals which is standard or not, but somehow we are being controlled remotely by some big powers and countries. This is something that we have been targeted, and it will take us some time to get out of their target. Like Ojabili said, the American systems. All right. Lost hopes. I don't know whether there is still something that we can do to make sure that we stay safe. What role does what role do those NGOs do? They are supposed to be pinning government to make sure that we are safe as Ugandans, because we do not have power, but we can have power through those institutions. Okay, I think the institutions that are represented in the studios today. Amon, how do you ensure that this research and knowledge they actually share here reach the smallholder farmers on the ground? I think all the farmers are listening to UBC Ground Zero. That's how we are doing to make sure that we share the knowledge. Thank you for the program. Thank you for the... I think you said that the program, not the problem. I want to believe so. Thank you for the problem, but I think it is the program. Misconceptions about organic agriculture that hinder adoption. I think he's asking about some of the misconceptions that surround organic agriculture that hinder adoption. This is addressed to the project manager. All right. Thank you so very much. So many questions coming in. What is the stance on genetic modified organisms, GMOs, versus agroecological approaches. I need to be advised on this. Okay. My guest in the studios, this is addressed to you, Wambala, I think, who the National Coordinator for Safety. GMOs, this is another question on GMOs. I think you'll also address that. Are they safe for us? I've heard that it is already introduced in Kenya. How safe are Ugandans if it is introduced? I want to learn from them. Okay. How do you plan to ensure that the youth and smallholder farmers are central to the national food policy, since we, the youth, are the majority, and I think we are targeted to be killed? I didn't put the name, but from the concern shared, he seems to be belonging to the group, the age group, who are the youth. In your views, what is the biggest political barrier or bill that achieving a safe and sustainable food system in Uganda is next to impossible? Okay, allow me go to the studios for my guests to be able to address some of these concerns. I'll start with Wambale, Ojabili, and Francis will sum these all.
Well, thank you so much for the questions and the interaction. Some of them were comments, and I think we shall not address the comments, but maybe look at the questions. One says, now the chemicals were banned, but then the duration is June 2026. I also have to note that there are some which go up to December. So it's not just June. There are others that have been pushed to December, but also there are others that have been left on the market for the next 5 years. So we also need to be cognizant of that. I think from our end, we shall keep on negotiating with government to make sure that those which are highly hazardous and pushed for long, 3 years, 5 years, we can't reach all that far because we don't know how many people, for instance, will have been affected by that. But also I need to note that the ministry notified the industry about this regulatory ban or restriction as early as October last year. So it's not that so now this time when they came out, they were publicly telling us. But the letter I have from the commissioner to the industry, it was as of 27th of October 2025. So meaning that the chemicals, since then, the industry has been informed to phase them out, because also the government thinks like, well, people have invested money, people have invested whatever, so we need to give them time to recall. And I think that is the reason for the period. I am not very sure of that, but that is as per the letter that I have here. So that is something, but they are not safe for us. They have to get off the market anyway. Secondly, the question on One Health. Someone says we need to work with one another. I think this is where we're coming from. While the chemicals are dangerous to humans, they are also dangerous to to wildlife, those animals in the park and whatever. They're also affected in one way or the other, and so they end up affecting tourism. So all those really some concepts that we need to think about when it comes to the One Health approach. One says the organizations have to pin government. Yes, I think one of the roles we've played well is to advocate. And I think that's why even we are seeing the government responding by putting up some bans and restrictions. But we are committed to pushing government every now and then, working with other actors to make sure we negotiate. We are not pinning, we are negotiating for the well-being of everybody so that we can be able to achieve health for all of us. There's a question on how this information reaches the farmers. I think this is to Francis. Yeah, you'll respond to that. But the issue of GMOs. I must say that there are different categorizations of GMOs, but as a country, there was a law or a bill on GMOs which up to now has failed to go through. The president does not agree with it, just like we do not as civil society organizations. So for now, any GMOs that are in the country, I would say that they are not legally bound. So unless the scientists are sneaking in these things, of course in the names.
You are eating chips every day on the road.
Well, they are using so many names. They are saying that these are improved and whatever, but the genetically modified organisms, we have no law. That is what I... So, but then in reality, there are some bit of advancements that are happening here and there, but for now we don't have a law. So we cannot beat it from that angle of policy. For now, the president is still hesitant to sign the bill, and I think we're on the right track if at all we don't sign it off. In terms of food policy and the youth, By the way, Amon and my colleagues in the studio, Uganda, I don't know where we're heading, but Uganda doesn't have a food law. It's very surprising. We have a food and nutrition policy, but it's as old as it was enforced in 2003. It's what we still have. We've been struggling to make a bill to review, but the process has taken us like 4 or 5 years. We have been trying to come up with a food and nutrition bill, which was a private member's bill, but up to now it is still somewhere. So we don't have a food law in the country, and that is very dangerous. And by the way, this also speaks to non-communicable diseases in a country. We know very well that 33% of Ugandans who die, that is 3 in every 10, they die of a non-communicable disease. And these non-communicable diseases, we're talking about cancers, we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about other cardiovascular conditions. 33%. Now, the other study shows us that 22% of, every Ugandan, Francis, myself, and Gilbert, we have a 22% risk of getting a non-communicable disease. But what is predisposing us to these diseases? One truth is the food. So most of the food we are eating is very high in fat, very high in sugar, very high in salt. But we don't have regulations to regulate these kind of things on our market. That is dangerous. And that's why actors have been trying to work on what they are calling the nutrient profiling model, a document that highlights how much sugar, how much fat, how much salt is supposed to be in the food. These, we don't have them. So I think we still have a regulatory gap, we still have a policy gap, but also the implementation of what we have. So I think for now, this is what I can respond to, and we shall keep on engaging the youth because they are the leaders of today and tomorrow.
Jabil?
Maybe you still want to pick up from there. Something about nutrition. Because you see, nutritionists have also, I'm going to request you people that you reduce on the cost of where people must determine what must be eaten in their bodies. I think it's about 150 as I'm speaking, or more. Because you go check your blood type and then determine what type of food you must consume and all that. So I think it is also expensive. That if we are talking about people's health, then the type of food they eat needs to be restricted, but you must know what type of food you must eat that is healthy for you. But that cost is so high. You cannot find, I don't think even 10% of Ugandans have done that checkup.
Let me answer him right away. So what we need to advocate for now is for government to actually employ nutritionists, because they're not employed as many in the hospitals of government, so that you come there and you find me there. But now these are private work, so it will be costly. So I think that answers that. So
if that is done, I think he might have also not done it. We might be speaking when he's a scientist, but he has, he also doesn't know. So you will find that not even 10% of Ugandans have really tried to do that. So it means we have more than 90% of Ugandans who don't know even what type of food he or she must consume to be healthy and well. Going to our questions, you see, we would want to blame so and so and so and so for this. We see when civil society comes up with the research, because the majority of this research are actually brought up by civil society, civil organizations. These organizations have tried their best, but with the regime of Mr. Museveni, every time there will be shrinking space for you to speak, for you to act. So for you only stop at speaking. Oh, you see, there's this problem. Then that's where you stop, and you give it to them. So citizens, you either empower the civil societies by rising up to demand that what they have said should be implemented, or when you continue keeping quiet, nothing will still happen. So it is upon you to either support the civil society or keep seated and wait until when the regime will say, okay, now we had it 10 years back, this so something like that. Then the biggest concern is about these products that have been banned or phased off. Giving them more time to continue selling their products tells us that the owners of these products, or the owners of these businesses, are their own. I know one in Chikubo. He's a former Army general. So I think they're also giving him an opportunity to sell his products until they are done, so that he has some money. He regains his money, the lost money, so that at the end of the day, he has nothing really to complain about. You say, I spent in my 1 billion, so who is going to give it to me? I think government should come up with the policy of the handshake, which it did to different government bodies and private entities. Say, now, we have these people who had already purchased these products on market. Go and make sure that they are refunded, these products are shelved off, taken away from the shelves, so that we protect the larger good. The larger good is the people of Uganda, that many of them are going to be affected. 1 year, we have 2 seasons. 2 seasons feed how many people? We have about 49 million Ugandans. All of them will eat food. So you are protecting a one army general in Chikubo while you are killing 49 million Ugandans. So I think government should really revise its decision. Let us protect the 49 million Ugandans and make at least one army general suffer.
All right. Francis?
Thank you very much, Amon.
You also want the generals to suffer?
I think I want to start from there.
You see, just to conclude this, in UK, there was a time when a doctor had to be killed and save a shoe cleaner, because he was the only shoe cleaner on that street. So a doctor, they had a multitude of them. So a doctor would lose his life to save a shoe cleaner. So today you would rather save Ugandans than that army general.
On which grounds could all of them leave? What had happened?
No, it's we are talking in financial terms.
So I think this is a very important conversation. And recently, Amon and colleagues in the studio, there was something that happened on the streets of Kampala. They swept off all the vendors, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they decided, and it worked.
It did work.
Within 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from one angle, you would see that people have been, pushed so hard. But on the other, you would see sanity. When I went to Jinja, I saw the same. When I went to Kamuli, I saw the same.
And in Bali.
And I went to Mbala and I saw the same. I was like, oh, so things are possible. So when the caller mentions that, part of the pesticides have been left for some time, his worries are the same as mine. I think we should be a little more radical for the good of the 49 million. Okay? And in terms of the other questions, I want to thank the callers, Matthew in Gayaza and Juma, I think Buteega, Simon. You mentioned so many things, and there's one who mentioned that what is the role of CSOs. I just want to compliment my brother's response. Our role is to advocate and to complement government work. So we complement government work and we do advocacy. And our advocacy is the reason we are here, is the reason we have had so many good things coming out from the Ministry of Agriculture and so many other entities of government. So for me, I'm very happy that the civil society fraternity is doing a great job complementing government efforts for the good of the Ugandan. And we should continue with this kind of work. There was a caller who said there are some things that hinder the adoption of organic agriculture and agroecology, and I want to agree, yes. He was not specific on what, but what I want to say is that civil society organizations, mentioning here Pelham Uganda, for example, works with over 70 member organizations across the country. And if there are any hindrances to the adoption of organic agriculture, this is the kind of network that we are in, and this is the kind of network that can address such challenges. So I agree with you, there are challenges, but with this kind of network, over 70 member organizations working with farming communities, it's a very big network that can resolve and help to address issues around adoption of organic agriculture and agroecology. And as I conclude, Amon, I have something that we have been doing.
Also, give us your parting shots and concluding remarks, because time is not on my side.
Yes, exactly. So, in 2022, the Knowledge Hub designed a campaign called Know What You Eat. And this campaign has been around, and civil society organizations that are working in the food value chains have adopted it. What we are saying is that know what you eat. You have just mentioned here, Augustine, that the chips you eat on the roadside every day. Who? Not me. Because I know what I want. I've known the value of nutritious food. So the Know What You Eat campaign is a very good call to action. We have been in spaces like the Harvest Money. Recently we were there. We will be at Africana in October. Every big gathering that concerns food, the Know What You Eat campaign is there. The Know What You Eat campaign was designed by the Knowledge Hub and Pelham Uganda team. And we are calling all the CSOs in the food fraternity, in the food system, to embrace it, but also the communities in Uganda and the stakeholders in government to embrace this and support this campaign. People need to know before they go to hospital and they are given a bill. You need to know what you're eating. Don't just buy. Pay attention. What are you buying and why should you buy it? So nutritious food is available, especially in this country. Uganda is still very blessed. We have a lot of nutritious food, and people should not have a reason to eat junk. I think that's my message.
All right, interesting, Ojabil. 1 minute, and also Mwambale, 1 minute. Your parting shots. And go forward, and also concluding remarks in the one
issues
pack.
concerning food is just, it's more of our life. You see, whatever you consume is what will either build you or kill you.
Exactly.
So it's about us. So you have to take a decision. Because there are moments where you say, okay, I need to eat this type of food. Maybe that's the demand your body is pushing for. There are moments when I want to take something very sweet. And I made the inquiries. I said, what causes this? It says, then the doctor told me, it's because your body is actually lacking enough sugar. So that's why it rises up to demand for more sugar, that you need to consume more than that. But again, do not consume that sugar made from the factories. At least try to buy things that are sweet, like sugar canes, so that so that your body might demand for sweet things, but again, do not poison it. Do not poison it. so just buy something natural and give it natural feeling.
Exactly.
So that is it. So our colleagues listening to us, my biggest parting shot is that government should actually give us a deadline of hours, not months, concerning these products that are not needed in the market. Cancer is not something simple. I have a sick person in the hospital over cancer. So I know what it means every day going there to offer support in terms of, yet you know that this person actually will not survive for the next 5 years. So we really need to take care of these issues as soon as yesterday.
Interesting.
Well, thank you so much for hosting us, Amon, and thank you, colleagues, for this interesting conversation. I also want to appreciate our people out there who are listening to us, who have been with us for the last 2 hours. We really want to appreciate your time, and we want to urge all of us, because we are all consumers, and so we must protect ourselves and protect each other. Know what you eat, select what you eat with care. The messages we are giving you, please take them heartily. Don't be confused. This is information that is researched, that is well known, and we are giving you the realities. So please take take care of yourselves so that we stay longer here, we become more productive, and we contribute to government development, socio-economic development, but also the tenfold strategy. So we cannot contribute to that when we are sick. So please let us make sure that we become healthy, we eat healthy, we live healthy, and then we become productive. We safeguard our lives and the lives of our children and the future that is coming. Thank you so much, and have a very wonderful day.
Interesting. Thank you so very much, our dear guest that made time to come through and educate the people of Uganda on UBC Ground Zero. We can't take that for granted. And I want to believe that we've picked a number of lessons, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we keep safe and secure. Know what you eat. This reminds me of Bethany Frankel, who said that your diet is a bank account. Good food choices are good investments. So make sure you invest very well and make sure that you stay safe. Until next time, same station, same program. I remain Ampaire Amon Buteega and the rest of the team that I work with to make sure that this program comes to you. And most importantly, one, thank you, our dear guests, for making time to come through, sacrificing that time, and also all the other resources is something that we cannot take for granted. Francis Nsanga is the project manager, Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Eastern Africa. Wambale Bernard happens to head the programs at Consonant and is the National Coordinator Food Safety Coalition of Uganda. Jabili Augustine is our own and comes from Forum for Democratic Change as a leader and also a member, and also heads the secretary of Electoral Commission. And we were supposed to have Deus Mobangizi, manager learning testing laboratories UNBS, whom we were unable to get in touch. I don't know how it happened. And until next time, same stations, same program. Until next time, many programs coming away on different radio stations that were covering this program. For God and my country, Ampaire Amon Buteega, allow me now to sign out.
That was Ground Zero, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
At UBC Radio, all our radio network across the country is committed to inform, entertain, educate and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kito kugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
nkabye ku lwange olw'omutima gw'omugonvu gwe sisaanye bonna ne we bagenda osigala olowooza ku nze tofaayo ne bwoba oswadde mama saba mukama okukuume oba lwojje akundize olw'omukisa gwe wampa mu mikono gy'emirungi ze muntadde mu ssaala zeezo bw'entyo enkuze tewali akwekana mama mama oye mama tewali amwekana mu mbeera yonna ye mama mu ssaawa yonna ye mama oyo ye mama tewali amwekana mu ssanyu eringi ye mama mu bulumi obungi mama oyo ye mama tewali amwekana oyo ye mama tewali amwekana.
Take a walk of literature in the Journey program, a memorable walk of life into creative writing, arts, fiction, and non-fiction every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. only on UBC Radio.
Hey, a very good afternoon, dear listener. Welcome to the Journey program, your program that is dedicated to the world of literature, where we enjoy all genres of literature every Saturday from midday to 1. With me, your host, Ngobi George, opening up with beautiful sounds of Lubaga Girls School. Beautiful song titled Mama. It's quite wonderful. And that is it, and that's what we keep on talking here on UBC Radio, the national broadcaster, where all those are forms of literature because we have the oral narrative that we are still continuing with our discussion. Remember, we are this time concentrating on the oral short forms. Remember, we discussed about the riddles, we talked about the tongue twister, but and we are going to talk about oral poetry. But for those probably that missed last Saturday's show, we said that tongue twisters, they test your spoken word, and when you master the art of tongue twisters, of course, it sharpens your pronunciations. And here is a common English tongue twister, which appears in varying forms in the English-speaking communities. Shayla says she shells seashells on Seychelles seashore. Sailor says she sells seashells on Seychelles seashore. So when you say that the sentence 3 times in a row, increasing your pace each time, try it. As you listen in, we say, Shayla says she sells seashells on Seychelles seashore. So you try to increase the speed. Sailor says she sells seashells on Seychelles seashores. So that's the tongue twister for you. So try it. Try it, increasing the speed, and answer yourself. Did you get it each time? If not, where did you stumble? What parts of the tenses make it difficult to utter? And why? What are the Seychelles? Why is their mention appropriate in the tongue twister? So that's just a recap of what we had last Saturday's discussions. Then, of course, we talked about the riddles. And we said, here is an outline of how a riddle would be performed. And remind yourself quickly of the 6 parts of the riddle that we had last discussions. And the example below comes from the Baganda people culture. Remember, I told you that every culture has its own riddles. And we also stated the formulas in which how these riddles are performed. And there is always a challenge. The performer challenges the audience. And there is always an answer. And of course, a prize. Now the challenge in Buganda, the challenge in Ugandan culture, they say, koi koi. English word meaning a puzzle, or a puzzle for you. Then the acceptance, ria in Uganda. But in English, it's it. Or, for example, we accept it or state it. So, koi koi ria, simply meaning English, a puzzle. Then the audience, it, we accept it. Now the riddle in Uganda. Nina omukazi wange java taddayo. That's the Uganda version. Nina omukazi wange java taddayo. The English translation is, I have a wife. She never returns to where she came from. Now the guess. One says, amazzi mu mugga. That is the water of a stream. Nedda. The English version says no. Then enkuba. Then rain. Nedda. No. An answer. Omwana mu lubuto. That is a child from the womb. Nedda. No, that's not the answer. Chitulemye. Then the audience, we cannot get it. Now the prize, because now the prize from the performer. Mumpe chalo. Meaning, give me a village. Tukuwadde Bulindo. We give you Bulindo. Ako karo. Akakaro kabi nnyo. Tekajjudde n'abatamiivu. Akatajjudde n'abatamiivu sikaagala. No, oh no, that little village is miserable. It's dry and infertile, and it's full of drunkards. I don't want it. But remember, there must be always a solution to the riddle. Remember, we are having a discussion we are in oral literature, but looking at the short forms. So we go to the solutions. Tukuwadde gayaza. We give you gayaza. Tyo, fine. Kale nno nga mbeera mu gayaza wange. So then I would settle there in my gayaza and I would fully relax. Omwo nga njagalira nga neeyagalira omwo nga nze afuga. And I will fully relax there, be a ruler of. Nga nze nfuga n'essomero ery'abawala ikulu nga mbalabira mukazi wange oyo gy'ava taddayo ke kakoola k'omuti. Now I would fully relax here, be a ruler of even the girls' high school, and I would see for you that wife of mine who never returns to where she came from. It's the leaf of the tree. So that's the solution. That's the satisfactory solution to the answer of the riddle. That's according to the performer. Because remember, we had koi koi, lya, nina mukazi wange gy'ava taddayo. A puzzle, a puzzle. It, I have a knife, I have a wife, she never returns to where she came from. But we've seen the answer is that I would relax there, be a ruler of even the girls' high school, and I would see for you that the wife of mine who never returns to where she came from, it is a leaf of a tree. So you can see that our forefathers, the performers of these oral narratives, were quite very intelligent. And then basically this was during, especially at night in holidays. We're soon going to holidays, but these were performances especially. The performer is a much older person, a respected person in the home family or in society, and the audience is usually composed of young ones. And its intention was basically to impart educations, to create creative minds. Now that the curriculum is simply changing to student-centered, we want creativity, critical thinking, and critically looking at your environment and analyzing those events. That's what the new curriculum is about. So we need more of this because many a times, ask yourself, how many times do you share riddles? How many times do you share riddles? Even at schools, even in homes. But these were a kind of world gameplay. Relaxing after supper, after lunch, sitting over the fire, sitting over the dining, you share riddles. And it opens your imagination, especially the young ones. So you could see that our forefathers were quite very great educators. Now from this riddle, there may then follow a brief discussion and explanations of how accurate the solution is, because we've seen the satisfactory answer performer is that the wife that never returns is where she came from. It's the leaf of a tree, because when the leaf of the tree surely falls off the tree, it will never return. So they have a discussion about the solution to see if it's appropriate. So you need to note that although the guesses may be technically accurate, as in the case above, the answers we've gotten from above, there would be only one acceptable solution sanctioned by tradition. So when you talk about oral narrative, oral literature, this basically has its core. It's embodied on tradition. It's what we call oral tradition. So there must be a solution that is actually sanctioned, accepted by the tradition. So the giving of the prize is also used as an occasion for commemorating or for commenting on the geographical and social features of the participants' environment. So as the riddler God does when rejecting the first village of Lindo and accepting Gayaza, the second. So in the you find that the riddle even plays on the name Gayaza, which means place completely for relaxations. But gone are the days, because right now if you compare Bulindo to Gayaza, because this is a riddle that was performed in quite many years back by the performer from the Uganda culture. But basically, if you go right now to Bulindo is far much developed than Gayaza currently. But this is from the old tradition, probably because Bulindo, like the performer was saying, was full of drunkards. But when you go to Lindo right now, you will see it's sprouting with apartments. So that's the reader for you. It's The Journey on UBC Radio with me, Ngobi George, looking at the short forms in the oral narratives. Let's take a short break, but when we return, we shall still challenge ourselves on how best we could master the art of sharpening, even increasing our critical thinking when we do read such material. Because gone are the days where we cannot get material. Here we have internet, we have many media where we can share these interesting facts like the tongue twisters and the riddle. Let's take a short break. It's The Journey on UBC Radio with me, Ngobi George.
At UBC Radio, all country is committed to inform, entertain, educate and guide for national transformation.
Our own radio, UBC, should set its own example. Leka bano abatafa ku bantu baffe bagumaza ndowooza muganda kita okugumaza to divert people. Let our own UBC bring programs to educate the people so that abagala kugumaza babeereyo bagumaza naye naffe they can advise, guide. And people in time will judge the one who is their friend and who is just using them.
Tune into UBC Radios for credible socio-economic programs. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
To the west, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From north to the south, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home.
I was stand alone on 9th October. But people forget a story begun on 1 November. Just before Uganda stood in its own chamber. Our struggle sweat was to make a mother. And we boldest in rain, we hold that umbrella. Country shining yellow, red and purple, it's on adventure. We move the globe back around the back to Uganda. What I'm saying is that alright. I love Africa.
The only land with peace and water and beauty every touch you can. The beautiful sinners with fox and the animals with us. When I think of your smile, the mother who holds and nurtures us. You land where I believe in waterfalls. I'm not always stand. East to the west, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From north to the south, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From east to the west, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From north to the south, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. Uganda, the part of Africa. Uganda, the part of Africa. The flag, the light every time. Sun, the shores so bright to us. Uganda, the part of Africa. I'm from Uganda, no Ghana or Rwanda. It's nature, black beauty, yet Uganda. Akakuba, Kasana, Kuweta. You know Uganda's Africa, the part of Africa. Nakupenda, Uganda, my peaceful motherland. Oh, Uganda, my peaceful motherland. From east to the west, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From north to the south, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From east to the west, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. From north to the south, come see my home. Come, see my sweet home. Uganda, the part of Africa. Uganda, the part of Africa. The flag, the light every time. The sun, the shores so bright to us. Uganda, the part of Africa. Uganda, the part of Africa. Uganda, the part of Africa. The flag, the light every time. The sun, the shores so bright to us. Uganda, the part of Africa.
Take a walk of literature in the Journey program, a memorable walk of life into creative writing, arts, fiction, and non-fiction every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. only on UBC Radio. From Julius Ochwinyo to Susan Chiguri to Jack Mapanje, join us on the journey as we take you into the lives of various writers in the world of literature. The Journey on UBC Radio. Literature Review is rooted in the past, resounds in the present, and moves us into the future. The Journey on UBC Radio.
Okay, welcome back from the short musical break. It's The Journey on UBC Radio. Beautiful sounds of those Rebecca girls. They are telling me they are listening in, and I hope you guys are enjoying. Before we continue with our discussions, today, 18th April, the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books has opened. If you've never heard about that, the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books is one of the biggest festivals in the world. So the Los Angeles Times is opening today in Los Angeles, where a free public festival celebrating the written word. We're talking about the spoken word now, but this one is for the written word. And it's the largest book festival in the United States, drawing approximately 85,000 attendees. That was in last year, it attracted 85,000 attendees. And the festival began in 1996 and is held on the penultimate weekend of April, hosted by the University of Southern California, where it features vendors, authors, and publishers. Among the events are panel discussions, storytelling, and performances for children, as well as the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. So you need to interest yourself in that. So they also have the Los Angeles Book Times Prize